Hey there, fourth graders. Well, it's not in the morning. It's not like I'm all fueled up with my coffee and yeah, it's actually toward the end of the day. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thought I'd work ahead here, and so here we go. This is lesson 2 on module 6. Yeah, the second to the last module of the year. So today we're going to look at mixed numbers. And did you know that mixed numbers have decimals? What? It's true. They do. For example, 4 and 3 tenths. That's equal to 4 plus 3 tenths. That's a revelation. I can tell by the look on your face. You would say that 4 and 3 tenths. Notice, side note here, that decimal point has a name. It's called and. I know, kind of crazy, but it's true. I'll elaborate more in class when we do this work. Anyway, let me show you. Here's a number line. Yes, I've taken great pains to draw a straight. Okay, I used the straight line drawing tool. There, happy? And just so happens, because our number is 4 and 3 tenths, that I've gone ahead and drawn a little number line that shows just the numbers 4 and 5 and the tenths, all the tenths in between. And I've gone ahead and taken care of pointing out where the halfway mark is. Right there. That's the halfway mark. That's why it's in red and has the little red arrow. Now, I'm going to go ahead and count up 4 and 1 tenth, 4 and 2 tenths, 4 and 3 tenths in fraction form. So you can see that because you know your fractions. And then I'm going to show the corresponding, yeah, that's a big grown-up word that means those two are linked together. So I have 4 and 1 tenth as a decimal, 4 and 2 tenths as a decimal, and 4 and 3 tenths as a decimal. Again, notice the decimal point is in between the ones place value number, which happens to be 4, and the tenths place. Tenths as in TENTHS. Yes, just like any fraction, tenths has a THS on the end. Yes, I know. Maybe, Heidi, that's why we call it tooths and not seconds. Anyway, so we know where 4 and 3 tenths is. Oh, and by the way, don't let that freak you out that those are centimeters, because you're going to see problems like that today. Notice I put this little red dot right there on the number line where it says 4 and 3 tenths. Just wanted to kind of point that out to you. That's where it is. Actually, looking at the work today, this is pretty straightforward stuff. I don't think you're going to have any difficulty with it, but you never know. Anyway, so moving right along, this is going to be a short presentation. Yes, you're welcome in advance. FAQs, also known as frequently asked questions. First one, why do you draw the halfway? Well, I just told you. Actually, I didn't. It's just easier to estimate where 4 and 3 tenths is if I draw the 4 and the 5 and then the midpoint, and then I can split things up. In other words, when I'm drawing my number line, I'd like to make things as precise as I can. And so I go ahead and draw the whole numbers and then the halfway in between distance. And that way I only have to split the difference in the halfways. And that makes it easier for me. That's question 1. Question 2 of the FAQs is, do we have to do this too? Yes, you do. But let me show you. It's not that hard. What does 2 and 7 tenths look like? It looks like a number, Mr. C. That's not what I'm asking. You know what I'm asking. So I've got 3 holes here. I know. Who is 1 today? 1 today is actually one of those. That's a horrible oval. We're going to get attacked by a sea bear if you've seen that SpongeBob rerun. So there it is. What does 2 and 7 tenths look like? Well, I'm so glad you asked. There's 1 hole. There's 2 holes. And there's 7 tenths. It looks like that? Yep, pretty much. Looks just like that. And the reason that is because we've established the 1 hole as one of the rectangles, and then we went ahead and split each of those holes into 10 equal parts, making those tenths. So 2 and 7 tenths looks just like that. Just remember that 10 tenths is equal to 1 whole, as is the other 10 tenths. And then you have 7 more tenths. And if you're looking at this in terms of decimals, you have a 1 and a 1, right? And you have 7 tenths written like that. That is 7/10 because there is a 7 in the tenths place. The tenths is the first place decimal place value. I want you to, I'll talk more about this later. But I had kids, in fact, I had fifth graders ask me many years ago, and I've always laughed and even brought it up because it's kind of like I don't want someone to be embarrassed by asking me, Mr. C, how come there are no once? Well, think about this for a second. If tenths indicates that you have a 10 in your denominator, what would once indicate? That you have a 1 in the denominator. So in fact, we have once, but we don't call them that. We call them ones. That's the lowest whole number place value, the ones place. There you go. Go tell your friends so they don't make the same mistake. But then again, you don't have to, and you could laugh at them. That's kind of fun. Well, not always. Anyway, so to close things off here, so I've got in the top, I've got 1 plus 1 plus 7/10 is equal to 2 and 7/10. I've done the same on the bottom and shown you that with fractions and a mixed number only because that's where we've come from. That's where we've spent all this time, the last 2 months. Yes, that's not an exaggeration. Whoever said no, that's not an exaggeration. The point is, Module 5 was a long haul. And so, but you learned something from that. And one of the things you learned was how to recognize mixed numbers. And there is one now. So you may be also wondering, yes, you get to do shading. Yay. Some of you like the shading, others don't. It's in this case, I'm going to have you do it. In the lesson, I want to say lesson 4, it's going to be something you can do only if it's helpful. You may be asked to do this kind of shading. And yes, I'm going to start talking about spring testing because we are going to be doing that. So don't freak out. It'll be fine. So why? Well, why do we shade? We shade if it helps us understand the decimal fraction connection. And like I said, if. And man, I'm looking at how I colored that stuff in. I thought I copied and pasted the fill from the left into the right, but for some reason I must have missed part of it because I did do a copy and paste, but for some reason it missed a section of it. Anywho, there it is. It's a short lesson, barely 7.5 minutes. I don't think you're going to have any difficulty with this, but still, when I say that, I still also encourage you to ask questions if you get stuck. Okay, thanks for listening. Have at it. Talk to you soon.